Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie, and I want to invite you to a special workshop I'm hosting with my friend Alisa Meredith. She's a marketing expert, and we are hosting a workshop to teach you how to set up a paid workshop in under 2 hours using MiloTree Easy Payments. I've been asking in my Become a Blogger Genius Facebook group, by the way, if you are not a member, please go to Facebook and join. I've been asking people, if you could set up a paid workshop easily, would you do it? And the answer I'm getting is a resounding yes. So Alisa and I decided to host this $10 workshop. So we're doing a paid workshop to teach you how to run a paid workshop. We're going to go step by step. It is much easier than you think it is. And I'll show you how to use MiloTree Easy Payments as the best and easiest way to get paid for it. What are the advantages? 1, you start monetizing your audience. 2, you start learning from your audience. 3, you start to build out other products like other workshops or a membership just by doing it. Oh, and 4, this is going to give you the drive to get out there and just start. So head to milotree.com/paid workshop to get on my email list, and I will email you all of the details. It's going to be November 17th at noon Central Time, but you're going to get a recording of the Zoom call afterwards. I'd love you to show up live, but you do not have to. We're also going to give you a PDF that steps you through setting up your paid workshop. I think this is going to be super cool. I would love to see you there. So head to milotree.com/paid workshop and you will get all of the details. For today's podcast episode, I have Emily Eggers on the show. She is the blogger behind Legally Healthy Blonde. And she's a food blogger, as you can tell. And she reached out to me and she said, hey, I have grown my traffic from 1,000 sessions a month to 100,000 sessions a month in less than a year using Facebook groups. And I was like, I don't know. Is that really true? Well, guess what? It is. And Emily so generously shares all of her strategies. This blew my mind. And of course, she was able to get into Mediavine, get lots of opportunities, start growing her list. If you are trying to grow your traffic, this is the episode for you, and it's all about strategically using Facebook groups. So without further delay, here is my conversation with Emily Eggers. Emily, welcome to the show. It's great having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I know nothing about you. You reached out to me. You said, I've grown my traffic. I'm using Facebook groups to do it. Do you want to know how I'm doing this? And I said, yes, I do. I really do. So before we get started and before we launch into tactics and strategies that you've discovered, will you share your entrepreneurial journey and where you are today and what you blog about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a food blogger. Most of the stuff that I blog about is typically plant-based recipes, but not super, not totally strict on it. I like to say plant-based, not vegan, to just kind of keep it open. And I technically started blogging back in around 2016, but that blog is not the same blog that I have now. I got really into cooking right when I got to college. And so I was like, I'll just start a food blog, but I had no idea what I was doing. I think it was on like a WordPress hosted, the
WordPress.com. Yep.
Yes. And just really didn't know what I was doing. And I was a freshman in college and I didn't have the time for it. So kind of just went away after that. And then later on in college, I was still really into cooking and food. And I was like, well, I want to take pictures of all this stuff. So I kind of rekindled my old Instagram for it and just was like, I'm just going to do an Instagram just for fun. And then after probably like a year of just posting things for fun, I was like, I kind of want to try this again. So August of 2020, I officially started like this, my Legally Healthy Blonde website, on, all the right platforms and everything. And I really started getting serious about it probably March of 2021.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So very new still to all of it. And I still feel like there's so much I learn every day when I, look at what other people are doing. I'm like, do I need to be doing this? Like, what's going on? So yeah, definitely still very new, but I've kind of dabbled in the area for a while.
Okay, so you start your food blog and you're going to do healthy kind of vegan-ish recipes. And what did you set up? So you've got your WordPress blog and like, what did you do this time that you didn't do last time? What were the decisions you made that you were like, oh, this is the right way to go?
Right. Yeah. So I definitely, I would say I looked into it more, like I Googled a lot more, tried to figure out what the right way to do things were. And everything said, go WordPress, the like full one. I started out on Bluehost, but then I think also in March of this year, I switched over to Big Scoots. And then probably also around March, I joined a food blogger Facebook group that has just been like the most informative group I've ever found. And I've just like combed through that and like taken all of the advice. I did an
Do you
audit
know
with,
what it's called? What that Facebook group is called?
yeah, it's Food Blogger Central.
Ooh,
I believe.
I'm a member of that. It's huge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, tons of people. And it's like, if you have a question about literally anything, someone will probably answer you, or it may have already been asked. But there's all kinds of really good information in there that like just helped me a ton, because I feel like a lot of it is specific to food bloggers. Like you can look up blogging information that might not necessarily apply in the same way.
Okay, so you start creating recipes, and how did you create your recipes? For example, did you do keyword research to figure out what recipes to create? Were you creating videos? I'm assuming you have a recipe plugin. Are you thinking about SEO? How are you promoting this on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the beginning, I really wasn't doing any of that. I had no idea what keyword research was. I knew what SEO was, but I didn't really know anything about it beyond, what it stands for. And I was really just like coming up with recipes that I thought were cool and fun and sharing them on Instagram. And that was about it. So in March, I booked an audit with Casey Markey for SEO. And I also just like listened to literally every single podcast he's been on.
He's been on my podcast. Yes.
Yeah. Everything he's ever said, I listened to that. So that helped a lot even before the audit, which didn't happen until August of this year. And then I really have started getting into keyword research lately. That's something I wish I would have started a lot earlier.
What would you say your 3 biggest takeaways were from your audit with Casey Markey?
Yeah, he recommended the keyword research course that I took, which was Cooking with Keywords. Was really helpful. So that was definitely one thing that he was really like, you need to focus on this kind of thing. And then also backlink profile is a huge thing for me, because my blog is still relatively new. So I have a pretty low one, which just makes it that much harder to rank on Google and for your recipes to show up higher. So that's definitely something I'm working on. And then honestly, I didn't have too many technical issues. We tweaked a lot of things in the audit, which was nice. He just kind of went on and did it right there. But yeah, just kind of fine tuning the template and making sure all the little details are right.
Got it. Okay. So you start this blog, and as you continue on, you start to kind of go, oh, I need to not just kind of wake up in the morning and go, what do I want to cook today? But I need to be more intentional about this. And then you start thinking, wait, I need to drive traffic to my blog. And so you think to yourself, how am I going to do this? And then how did you discover ways to drive traffic, especially when it came to your Facebook group strategy?
Yeah. So partially because I wasn't doing keyword research and I have a low backlink profile, I wasn't getting the Google traffic. I think around May or June of 2021. So this year, I was sitting at around 1,000 sessions a month, which is not very many.
Now, were you using Pinterest? Was Pinterest driving traffic?
Yes, I was using it. It wasn't giving me a lot of traffic though. And it's still one of those things I plan to work on a lot on in the future. But it hasn't been like overnight tons of traffic for me. So I was still just kind of around 1,000 sessions, and there were a few other bloggers that I had seen that had gotten into an ad agency, specifically Mediavine, before they they increased their sessions requirement. And I kind of talked to them and was like, what did you do? What have you been doing that's been so successful? And a few of them said Facebook groups. And so I just kind of looked into that a lot more, because I was posting in Facebook groups, but I was just randomly posting. I would just, say, here's this recipe.
So so were you posting in Facebook groups that were specifically for people to drop links?
No, I don't think I was ever a part of those, because I just don't think that those work as well, to get like non-blogger people, to get like traffic of regular people, because those people just normally aren't in groups that have link dropping things. They're in groups where they want to just actually find recipes.
Okay. Yeah. So you said to yourself, I need to be where the people are, which, by the way, I love that strategy. It's like, do not reinvent the wheel, always figure out. So for example, the holidays are coming up, let's say, and it's like, okay, how can I ride that wave? How can I ride whatever wave is coming that I can then attach my content to, put my own spin on it, and then hopefully be able to milk that? Because I know people, it's back to school. Let's say, hey, moms are going to be thinking about snacks, or they're going to be thinking about easy dinner recipes or whatever it is. So, right. Okay. So you say to yourself, I need to be where the people are. And then what do you think to yourself? Like, where are you going?
So I was in a few like vegan, vegetarian groups and a few just like random healthy recipes groups. And I actually had one post just kind of like take off in a group, this was before I really had a specific strategy. I just kind of got lucky with one post and got tons of traffic on it. And then after that, I was kind of like, okay, so this can work. Let me just figure out what I need to do to make it work. And so specifically finding the right groups, I think, is the most important part. So definitely niche groups. So the ones that were just...
How many people in these groups?
Yeah. So my most successful ones mostly have around 1 million plus people, which there aren't that many of those. So, that I could do one post in that group and it might do way better than 5 in another group. I think the first one maybe was around 900,000 or 1 million or so. But then I found a few more that are 1 million people, even one with 3 million people, that those ones are just great, especially because you can repost things, because it's a totally new set of eyes, because there are just so many people in there. And the ones, I think the way the Facebook algorithm seems to work, it's harder if there's only, say, 50,000 people in a group or less than that. It's such a small fraction of them that are going to see your post.
Right. So a small percentage of a very large number becomes a large number.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you've got 1 million people and let's say 5% are going to see it, that's what? 50,000?
Yeah. So that's way more than that same percentage in a smaller group. And that's not to say smaller groups can't work. I'm sure if there was like a really, really engaged audience in a smaller group, it could. I just haven't found any of those really. The ones I've found success with just have tons of people in them.
Okay. So what you did was you found these large Facebook groups around healthy eating. How many groups are your like go-to groups? How many have you identified?
So I still test out a lot. So I would say I probably have 4 that I can reliably expect like a good amount of clicks and likes and comments on. I'm still parts of others, but there are some that I just joined this one recently, so I don't really know how well it's going to be. I might have to test it out a few times to kind of see. But I definitely have one that I'm like, if I only have one post I can get out this week, I'm putting it in this group on like a Monday or Sunday, when a lot of people are on Facebook looking for recipes. And that one is by far like the best. And that's the one that has 3 million people in it. So definitely like the biggest one.
So do you know the name of the one with 3 million people?
Yeah, it's so that's a Instant Pot recipe group. I think it's
Okay.
Pot community.
Okay.
But that's another thing is finding niche ones. So
Mhm.
like the ones that are just general healthy recipes,
Mhm.
they don't have a lot of engagement because most
Mhm.
people it's very generalized.
Right. So like air fryers.
Yes, I think I don't do anything with air fryers, but I kind of want to just because I think that would have such great potential. So I'm a part of a few Instant Pot ones, a few like plant-based vegan ones. And I've been trying to find some like good crossover groups, but there's not a huge niche there.
Okay.
But I think there's potential for that for like other things.
Now,
like
first of all, how are you finding these groups? Are you going to Facebook and going in like the groups tab and typing in like healthy eating or vegan or Instapot? How are you finding the groups?
Yeah, literally I just go in and search like what I am making recipes for, like, the kind of recipes I'm making. And I just kind of scroll through and say, look at how many people are in them. Some of them you can see the actual group content without joining, and some of them you have to join to see the group's content. But I usually just look at the number of people that are in it first. And if it's a really large number and I haven't found it yet, I'll just join it and try it out and see if it works.
So now let's talk about the strategy for adding links in the group without seeming like you are spamming the group.
Yes. So I also think when finding a group, it's important to pay attention to how many bloggers are in the group. I think it's good for there to be bloggers in the group because that shows that the audience is receptive to blogger recipes. Because I think I've heard that there are some that people just won't click on bloggers recipes, or the moderators might not even allow bloggers to post. So definitely make sure it's like a blogger friendly group.
And the way you do that is like you're looking at the kinds of posts that are in the group already.
Yeah. Like if someone says, here's this thing, also here's my link to it, and you can kind of tell it's the same person posting it. That's usually a good sign. But also you don't want every single post to be from bloggers. Because then it doesn't, then there probably aren't a lot of regular people that are engaging with it and viewing it and posting in the group as well. So really that Instant Pot one is like kind of my like golden example because there are a good bit of bloggers in there. But there's also a lot of just regular people who will post things that they've made, even with, no link. They're like, this is just a thing I made. Lots of questions, like lots of just like genuine engagement.
Got it. Okay. So let's say you start and you see bloggers are in there posting links to recipes and regular people are posting their own recipes. How do you craft that post so that it, again, because, so many of the Facebook groups I'm in, which are more businessy related, that kind of thing, are like, you cannot put links to yourself or your services or blog posts or anything like that, unless, let's say, it's a Facebook group where they go, okay, on Fridays, you can put a link to something you sell, or you can put a link to a blog post or something like that. I have a Facebook group as well. And I try to be really mindful of not just this being a place where everybody can just post links. Every so often I'll be like, hey, you've got something to sell, post a link to it. Hey, you've got a blog post you're excited about, post a link to it. But I really want it to be much more about engagement.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is a good, like, that's a kind of a difficult line to toe to kind of find those groups. Because if there is like organic engagement, the moderators don't really care if you do that, because they're like, oh, it's fine. I also think specifically with recipes, it doesn't come off as I'm trying to sell you something. It comes off as I made this really good recipe and I think you guys might like it too. So I think, I've seen those groups and I honestly just haven't even tried to post in those kinds of groups. But that hasn't really been an issue, at least that I've noticed.
Okay.
But
so let's say give me a recipe that you just made that you're excited about.
Yeah. Well, so this one I made probably a few months ago, but I reposted in a group yesterday. It was a Instant Pot vegan jalapeno cheese grit recipe.
A cheese what?
Cheese grits.
Cheese grits. That sounds good. Okay. That sounds good. All right. So you say, okay, I'm ready to post this. And what do you do? So
I always start the post out with a question. And that's something that I've toyed with not doing. And I've looked at other posts that didn't do that. And it really does seem that the questions help a lot with engagement. And that's probably the part of the post I focus the most on, is what kind of question I'm going to ask. Because I think that determines, the content of the post helps too, if it's actually a appetizing recipe versus something that people just aren't interested in. But aside from that, I think the first opening question is really important. Doing something that's like intriguing and maybe even a little controversial in like a safe, friendly way.
Okay. So what kind of question did you create for your jalapeno grits?
So this one, I kind of figured this question out because being from the South, apparently some people put sugar in their grits. I didn't know that was a thing. I've never done that. I think it's not a Southern thing. But on a previous post, I had heard people saying they put sugar in their grits. And that kind of caused a lot of back and forth in the comments. So I started this one out by saying, do you like your grits with sugar or not? And then it kind of went on to say, personally, I like them with cheese and butter and salt and all these things. And here's my recipe. You can get it here. But that got lots of comments of people saying, I love it with sugar. I hate it with sugar. Never put sugar in it. I always put sugar in it. All these things that just kind of keep it at the top of people's news feeds as well.
Okay. And so how long is your post? How many sentences?
Usually not too many. Always the opening question, and then maybe 2 after that. Maybe 3 if it's like necessary, but definitely not long. And then I always end it with like, get the recipe here, and then just let the link in at the bottom. And then I never do the link preview either. You know how if you add a link, it automatically pops up. Yeah, I just always.
So nobody's seeing a photo. Nobody's seeing a photo.
So I add a photo manually into the post because I just feel like it takes up more space on the feed. It just catches people's eye a little bit better, and it doesn't look as much like I'm a blogger. Here's my recipe. It's more like, look what I made. Also, here's the recipe.
Well, especially if other people are posting, let's say their vegan meatloaf, which, whatever, or, whatever they're excited about and they're proud of, that they're like, hey, it's funny because it is so true that like when scrolling through Facebook, like people or Instagram, people love posting photos of things they've made and recipes, look what I made today. I made bread or whatever. It's like, whoa. And it's just so people can like give you props. So I get it. Like your vibe sounds like it's trying to elicit that feeling of like, hey, here's this kind of interesting food question. And then you've got your photo of your food and then you're like, oh, and get the recipe. So it's not super like just at the top, get this recipe. It's the best grits ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what I was doing before figuring this out. I would just like, if I posted this, a few months ago, I may have just said vegan cheese grits, like with a link to the recipe and not really thought anything of it or, done something that might work on Instagram or Pinterest, but it just doesn't work as well for like true engagement there. I think it specifically in some of these larger groups, it really works well to do something that will get people to comment on it. And not everyone's going to comment, this looks good. Some people will, and that's great. And that's helpful, but like something more than just like, this looks good. You want them to get like, kind of have an opinion, say, something more about it to keep people commenting on it.
Now, will you go back to these posts and will you comment back? So if somebody says, oh my God, sugar's disgusting, will you go, yeah, I feel the same way? Or, or I like this kind of cheese. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. I've never tried that. Or like, are you in there? Or do you kind of, or are you more or less just kind of, hey, here's the thing. And then the conversation happens without you?
A little of both. And it depends on the recipe. I have posted some with the exact same strategy that just don't elicit as much conversation under them. And so those ones, it's easy to respond to like a few comments because I might not get as many. But on some where I'm getting 100 or more comments, I'm not going to go through all of them. I try to do it on the first few. And then if someone has a question, like I always keep my eyes on the notifications and just kind of pay attention to it if someone has a question. So like someone in this one, they commented and they were like, we just recently went dairy free. This looks really good. What kind of cheese do you like? We're having trouble finding a good one. That was way after I posted it, but I went back and made sure to answer that because I just feel like that was really like a helpful thing.
Okay. No, wait, I just have to interrupt for 1 second. This strategy got you from 1,000 sessions to how many sessions?
So I actually got all the way up to 100,000 sessions at one point from doing this that's within a 30-day period. So huge growth. I have backed down a little bit because I was posting like a lot.
Yeah. So that's what I want to get into is how often you're doing this and how you're keeping track. Okay. But I just had to say that because I realized that we haven't even gotten, like, I wanted to kind of tease the punchline, which is this has been a huge strategy for you.
Yeah, it's been super effective. Especially in the beginning, I was getting like, there were days when there would be like 8,000 sessions in a day, which prior to that, I was having 1,000 per month. So like, that was a huge increase for me. And I still get like, I think on the one I posted yesterday, I probably got around 1,300 or so, which is still very significant. But that was also when I reposted. So it just got a little bit less engagement than the first time that I posted it as well.
This episode is all about growing your blog traffic, but what about your blog posts? That's the bread and butter. So how do you create optimized blog posts? Well, go grab my checklist. It is my free blog post checklist that steps you through all of the elements you need to create the best posts, both for Google and for your audience. To grab it, go to milotree.com/blog post checklist. Then you can have it on your desk as you're writing your blog post and you won't forget anything. And now back to the show. So first of all, how often are you creating new posts, new recipes?
Yeah. So also I will say at the time that I started doing this, I was creating like way more than most people are. To do the audit with Casey Markey, I had to have 80 posts and I wasn't there yet. So I was like really ramping it up at that time. So I had a lot more to post at the time as well. Now I am going back and redoing some older posts as well as a new post. So my goal is to do 2 posts a week. And that's on my blog posts.
Are these 2 new posts or one that you've revisited and kind of fixed
so like
up
a revamp and then a new one. So I'm kind of trying to keep it like go back, fix one, post a new one, kind of back and forth. So I'm not, I can post all of them in the vegan groups usually, and those do well, I have more of them to post. Not all of them are going to be Instant Pot recipes though. So like the Facebook groups, I was posting a lot. I was making a lot more Instant Pot recipes back then. I still am, just not to the same extent because I'm trying to rely more on Google than on Facebook now. But I would say if I were keeping up with it as best as I could, I would probably post in the Facebook groups 2 times, maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
So wait, into each of these. So let's say you've got like 4 or 5 power groups. What would you say?
I probably have 3 to 4 that I would really consider.
Okay.
Like
so let's say you've got 4 of these power groups. How many times are you posting into each one per week?
So I would say of those 4, there are like 2 that are like here and then like 2 that are like still really good, but just like less consistent. Like the other ones I'm sure to get engagement on. These ones I might.
Okay.
If I'm going to post something, let's say I only posted 1 recipe for the week, I'm definitely going to post it in those first 2. If I have time, I'll go through and post it in the others as well. Sometimes I can copy and paste, but other times if it's a different niche group, I may have to rephrase the post a little bit. Instant Pot versus vegan is typically a pretty different audience. So I may promote the vegan part a little bit more and kind of hide it a little more on the Instant Pot one.
But let's say they were similar, would you just literally copy and paste the same content? Like the grits one with the question about the sugar, like that's a very specific post, but it's not like if you post it in the other group, people are going to go like, Emily, we know we're onto you, Emily. We've seen this before. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I normally just copy and paste them. Now, if I'm reposting something that I've posted like a few months ago, I may change it a little bit just to, be more authentic and not totally copy and paste. But if it's the same post on the same day, I'll probably just copy and paste it. And I haven't really run into any problems with that yet.
Okay, wait. So let's go back. Okay, so you got your 2 power groups and your 2 power lights. Let's
Decent,
call them.
yeah.
Okay, decent. So you're posting in these 2 power groups how many times a week?
I would say good week would be 2 to 3
in each one.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 to 3 posts in the power, and how about in the kind of the good but not terrific groups?
I mean, the 2 to 3 would also work, but I typically tend to do less just because I would focus if I'm having a busier week, I'm just going to focus more on those top 2. And if I'm I have to get a post out tonight, I'm going to put it in that one as opposed to the other one if I don't have time to do all of them.
Got it.
But I haven't noticed necessarily that like this schedule, like the strategy of schedule matters that much in terms of how often you post. I did one time run into a problem where one group wouldn't let me post because it had been less than 24 hours since my last post. And I was like, oh, okay, keep that in mind. I need to wait a little bit here. But I feel like at least for the highly engaged Facebook groups, the days that you post it seems to matter more than how often.
Okay, so what days?
So I almost never post a recipe on Saturday because most people are not scrolling through Facebook looking for recipes on Saturday. Some are, but most of the time not. Sundays, I have noticed by far they do the best. I think more people are just on their phones Sunday evenings or afternoons usually. And I think people are just looking more for things to make throughout the week. Some people meal prep or plan and they just want to kind of see more stuff. So Sundays, I by far have the best success. But I've also had really good ones on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there are every once in a while, I'll see mine or someone else's might do really well on like a Thursday or Friday. But so it's not an exact science, but I definitely, again, if I'm only going to post 2 a week or something, going to focus on doing it Sunday and Monday.
Got it. Now, are you thinking afternoon? Could you do it in the morning? Have you experimented with like, what if I do it in the morning? What if I do it in the afternoon?
Yeah, I've experimented a little bit with it. But it's hard to tell because, some recipes just do better than others. So it's like, there's not a really good variable there, but I tend to do it like after 5, just because I assume.
Okay. And you're East Coast.
Yes. Yeah. And so I just kind of assume, most people in the group probably work a 9 to 5, especially like the Instant Pot group is a lot of like working moms, people that are busy. That's why they have an Instant Pot, as opposed to another group where people might be a lot more like into cooking. They aren't necessarily looking for something fast. They might not care as much to have something like ready on the table in 30 minutes kind of thing,
Now, have you experimented? I know one group will only let you post, like they won't let you post until it's been 24 hours, but have you ever just kind of posted a lot in it? Like, are you experimenting with like, hey, what if I did 5 posts in a day? What if I did, 1 post, I don't know, every other day, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I think when I first started doing this was kind of my experimenting with a lot of them because I was making so many and I was just really excited about all the traffic that I was like, I just need to post every day. I don't think I did every single day, but I was doing it a lot. And I got a lot, I would say I got more traffic then from them. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily a correlation, but it may be, because I do think that Facebook shows people like posts it, if someone comments on my post and then I post again, they'll see that at the top. So it may have had a correlation. I haven't tried that consistent lately. So maybe.
Now here's a question. Are you going into these Facebook groups and also just providing value? Like, hey, somebody has a question about vegan cheese, and they post that. Are you in there as an expert, like going, oh, these are the cheese, this is what I recommend? Or are you not, and this is no judgment, but like, are you only providing that value when it's something that you've posted?
A little bit. So I'm not an avid Facebook user. I would say that like Facebook groups are probably the majority of the time I spend on Facebook. But because I post in these groups so frequently, they also show up, like the other posts will show up at the top of my feed. So if there is something that I think I can provide value, or a lot of times people, like regular people, will go on and they'll say, I just recently found out I can't eat dairy. Can someone like point me towards some really good recipes? And I might comment and say, hey, I have a bunch right here. Here's a link if you want to. If someone asks a question that I know the answer to, I probably will. That being said, I'm also like not an Instant Pot expert. Like I like it, but I'm also very new to it. So like some really like specific questions, I'm like, I don't want to tell them the wrong thing here because pressure cookers are a little complicated.
Totally. Now for your blog posts, are you creating videos?
I have not started with videos yet. That is something I would like to do in the future. I just really haven't gotten into it yet. Just haven't really had much time to focus on that yet.
Totally. But I always like that question. And I'm always impressed with people who go, no, I want to get to it. But like you've had success without creating food videos, because I think people think if you're a food blogger, oh, every post needs to have a video.
Yeah. And I see lots of posts that do. And I think they look great. It's just not something I've had the time for yet. And I will say when you go into like the Google search console and they tell you.
It asks for your video.
Yeah. So some of them will say there's a problem. And I'm like, okay, what's the problem? And it's like, you don't have a video. And according to Casey, as of August, he said that's not a big deal. He was like, you can get to it, great, but don't worry about it. There are more important things.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am with video. I don't worry about it. But I will say once I get to the point of doing video, I would be really interested to see how those work in Facebook groups. Because I think that they could be really eye-catching and get a lot of attention, but they also might be too curated. Like they might be too, like I see people post videos, but it's like normal people and it's just on their iPhone and they're like, look at this cool thing I made. And those seem to do really well. So I don't know if like a super like high quality video, it actually might not do as well.
I don't know.
You
know what you could do in your next recipe? Take out your phone and just do like a tiny video of it so that you can then add that. So it does have a slight homespun feel to it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I'll definitely try that.
It's easy, it's like an easy way, but it also humanizes you.
Yeah.
I think one thing about food bloggers is it can seem intimidating, when people do such beautiful stuff or stuff that seems really complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the like kind of key to success in some of these Facebook groups is being more human. And sometimes even that might even mean being kind of corny and, just like I will sometimes use like emojis in posts that I might not necessarily use on a daily basis. But they make me seem more real and normal, as if I'm not real. But then also I haven't run into this, but I have heard some people complain that like their Facebook groups, if they have like really beautiful photography, that those either don't go over very well or moderators don't like that. I think I have decent photography, but I'm not like super artistic with it. So it's like still clear, bright pictures, but it's not like a beautifully extravagant setup scene, whereas that looks great on Instagram. It does a million, phenomenally on Instagram and Pinterest. It may be intimidating to regular users who may look at it and say, oh, I could never make that.
Right.
Versus,
So
that looks really good.
Totally. So what I love about what you're saying is like go where the traffic is. Like, so we need to talk about what other social media platforms are important to you and are they driving traffic?
Yeah. So I will say that social traffic has helped me a lot. I also will just like make a caveat here. The ad agencies don't love if you have only social traffic. And I think that's a recent development because I know people that have gotten in with a lot of social traffic.
Google traffic, right? Google traffic is much more valuable than social traffic.
Absolutely. And I was at like 92% social traffic when I applied to Mediavine. And even though I had like tons of sessions, they were like, maybe just wait a little, get some more Google traffic. So the social traffic's great. And I think it's a great bump if you need like a little help that month, or if you just want to, get a whole new audience, it's great. But, don't lean too much into it like I did. But that being said, I feel for me, Facebook is really the only one I've gotten lots of traffic from. I haven't done a lot with Pinterest. And I need to, that's on my list, because I kind of had almost given up on it. And then I had one of their idea pins kind of go viral, got a bunch of followers from it. So now I'm like, well, now maybe if I actually post a pin with a link, I might get traffic from it now that I have followers. But I haven't really gone into that too much, just because, again, I'm trying to increase my Google traffic more so now. And then Instagram, I love using Instagram. I think it's a really fun place. I get like negligible, like almost no traffic from it. And I know some people do if they have like hundreds of thousands of followers, but overall, I hear most people don't get a lot from Instagram. But I still use it all the time. It's probably what I actually use the most in terms of like engaging with other people.
Now, here's a question. You're getting all this traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the end goal? Or are you taking that traffic and say converting that traffic into email subscribers? Or are you putting products in front of them, like affiliate products or your own products? Because the one thing, and I just said this in a previous podcast, but a lot of times people will say things like, oh, look, like I made this recipe. And then it's like, oh, where'd you get the recipe? And somebody might go on Facebook or on Pinterest. And it's like, well, no, not exactly. You got it on Emily's blog on Facebook. And so it's kind of like, how are you working on putting yourself up front? So people start to, instead of like, I found this recipe on Facebook, but like, oh, I'm starting to have a relationship with this blog, with this blogger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's, the other side to, I just kind of said the one downside of the social traffic, but the upside is in the long run, it can help with all of those things. My email list was super, super small when I first started it. It was like maybe around 100 people on it. And after that month alone, I think it was like almost to 700. So got tons and tons of email subscribers from it, which even if I post a recipe that I can't post in that Facebook group, for whatever reason, they'll still get it in when I send the email out about it. So it's a whole new set of eyes that gets to see it. I don't really have anything that I sell
yet. Yet.
I did do a virtual cooking class. So that was another thing I could send to those people specifically. That was a really good audience because I know they're engaged with my content. And I do use affiliate links, and I did by far see like the most money from that in those 1 and 2 months that I was really using social traffic, just because more people saw it. So more people clicked on it. And especially if it had like unique ingredients, like I did one that had miso paste, and a lot of people were interested, but some people didn't know what it was or where to buy it. So like that was one where a lot more people clicked and actually bought something from it.
And are you optimizing your blog posts for this? Meaning you've got them on your site, you've got them in a recipe. Are you say multiple times saying, sign up for my list because you're going to get this awesome opt-in, or, hey, check out these products, or like, are you directing them to kind of do something that grows your business beyond just traffic?
Yeah, I don't do it like over the top because from, what everyone says, that's not the greatest SEO strategy. You don't want people to get annoyed on your page. So I do have one pop-up, which Casey Murgy wasn't a huge fan of, but it works really well for me. So I kept it. But it doesn't pop up until after 30 seconds, which, lots of people don't stay on the blog for that long. So I actually kind of think that's a good thing because it doesn't annoy people. If someone's on there for 30 seconds, there's a good chance they're engaged in the recipe, at least a little bit.
Right.
So that pops up for an email. And then I just do the affiliate links really naturally in it. I mean, I have a little thing that says like, this is an affiliate link, but it's not like in your face. So it kind of comes up more like a natural approach, I think.
I just have to say a plug for us. So we have a pop-up, our MiloTree pop-up app where you can grow social media followers and email subscribers with it. And Casey likes it. And
Ooh,
he
I might have to
recommends you look into it. It's called MiloTree. So milotree.com. And you can grow your social followers with it and your email subscribers. And we have a setting where you can have it pop on exit. It's called exit intent. So as soon as somebody's on your blog reading your post, hey, they're about to leave, and click the exit out button, and boom, it pops as like a last way to go, hey, wait, if you like what you're getting, like, don't leave, do this thing, because you'll get more content from me. So that's just something to look into. But Casey, we sent him all of our documentation about it to show how well we built this, how optimized it is, and it will not slow your site down. Just had to say that.
I actually will definitely look into that, because I like my email subscriber system a lot. I like the layout and the way it looks, but it doesn't have exit only, which is my biggest complaint with it. And that's why I changed it to 30 seconds, because I was like, well, that's probably how long people are on my blog, but I would love an exit only one. So I'll definitely look into that.
And do you send emails? How often are you emailing your list?
So I do emails when I have a new post. So, back when in June and July, when I was doing like an insane amount, the people were getting emails a lot. Now it's slowed down a little bit. And especially with the ones I'm revamping, I've started like a content calendar. So I'm not necessarily posting it the exact time I post, or sending the email exactly when I post the blog post, which is what I was doing previously. So I have a little bit of a strategy there, but you definitely no more than one a day. Usually like maybe 2 or 3 a week, depending on how many recipes I have to share that day.
Yes. Okay. So what about your business are you most excited about right now?
Yeah. It sounds like a kind of cop-out answer, but I'm just really excited for it to grow. Really excited for the potential that like all the keyword research and SEO stuff has, because I know I can get the traffic from the social. If I need it, if I need a little extra boost, I know I have that route. So I'm really excited for the more natural, organic, sort of passive traffic to start happening, which it definitely has. I've seen huge increases in it. And so that's like, it's exciting to see it work. Like when you start doing it right and it works.
I know. It's like magic. One last question. Do you keep a master spreadsheet of what recipes you're sharing in what Facebook groups, or is it more kind of ad hoc?
Yeah. I wish I was as organized enough to have a master spreadsheet. That would probably be really helpful if I could actually keep up with it. But it's very ad hoc. So I kind of just, especially when I don't have, like if I haven't made an Instant Pot recipe lately, or I don't have one to share, I will go into a few, those top few groups and, click on my own posts and see how long ago did I post this recipe. If it's been over a month to a month and a half, I'll probably repost it, just because people probably forgot about it. And it is also a totally new set of eyes. So I just kind of do it that way. But then if I have a new one, I'm pretty like, I'll post it pretty soon after I have made the post, just because I want that traffic boost. Because in the long run, it does help with SEO. Because I've gotten, in addition to email subscribers, I've gotten reviews and comments on my recipes, as well as like the little social sharing number has gone up so much on a lot of them. So it just kind of gives it that boost right after you post it.
I love that. I love, Emily, I love that you kind of like stumbled upon this, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that it worked.
I had heard other people do it. And so I actually went out and like bought an Instant Pot, because I had heard that like appliance groups worked really well. So I'd heard about it, but most of it was trial and error.
Next, air fryer. I don't have one, but I hear it's like
all
crazy.
My friends say that they're obsessed with it, and I'm like, I need to get one. I don't have space for another thing.
I get it. Emily, if people want to reach out to you with questions, comments, check out your blog, where would you send them?
Yeah. So my blog is legallyhealthyblonde.com.
Okay. Say it slow. Say it slow.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's Legally Healthy Blonde. So
Legally Healthy Blonde. Okay.
Like the movie, but with health. middle.
I love that.
And then I'm really active on Instagram. So so same thing, Legally Healthy Blonde is my Instagram name, and always DMs. I'm always checking them. I'm not the kind of person with like thousands and thousands of followers. So I'll probably see your DM if you send one.
Awesome. Well, I just have to say, I am so proud of you for all that you've done and how quickly you've done it. And I love that it's starting to click and work for you. I think that is just so inspiring, for other bloggers and stuff. Like if you stay at it, it does start to work. And you're smart and you have a strategy and you think about, there's intention. It can really work.
Yeah.
Is this your full-time job?
It is. So I was working at a restaurant before this, and as of August, I am now doing this full time.
Good job. Wow.
Yeah,
well, Emily, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. If you are a food blogger, this episode should be rocking your world, but it does show you the power of Facebook groups. If you want to tap in to a community of people interested in your content, I would start there. And I hope you will come to our workshop on November 17th at noon Central Time. It's just $10, and Alisa and I will show you in 1 hour how to easily set up a paid workshop. Head to milotree.com/paid workshop, super easy to remember, and I will reach out to you with all of the details. I hope to see you there, and I will see you here again next week.